The docks and car are different than any Kirishima has ever seen. They start far from the land and team inwards like wooden spiders' legs. They web between the islands, connecting them together, right up to the largest landmass. Huts and shacks sit high above the water, away from the tides, making streets and alleys of the sea. "Wear this," Bakugou says, holding out a black bandana to him. Kirishima takes it, wondering if it's another gift. "Your hair, dumbass." Bakugou sighs, exasperated. "You really think you'll walk into Ka with the crew's habit of calling you Kiri with your shit-ass fucking red Kirishima hair?" "Oh," Kirishima says. He thinks about the violent stories he's heard of Ka. The commodore that rules the waters and the government there. The merciless torture in their prisons. I can stay on the ship." "No, I need you to read the verses to Mitsuki," Bakugou says. "The old hag won't shut the fuck up if I'm talking to her. She always thinks I've been fooled into information." "To be fair, Bakugou, you have been before," Mina says in passing, using the dropping gangplank as a quick escape from Bakugou's scowl. She winks at Kirishima, who averts his gaze, still highly embarrassed, and Sero gives him a mock salute. Bakugou clicks his tongue and looks back to Kirishima. "You're risking taking the notes off the ship?" Kirishima asks. "It'd be idiocy to leave them here," Bakugou says, and Kirishima guesses he's right. There's no true safe place. Kirishima nods and runs his fingers through his hair. He braids it tight to his head and ties it off with the ribbon Bakugou gave him. He tucks the braid into itself and secures the bandana around his head. Bakugou stares at him as he does so, and Kirishima half hopes it's because he looks good and not like a complete idiot. "You can do whatever you want, but when the sun starts to set, find the Aeternum and ask for me," Bakugou says as he makes his way down the gangplank to where Mina and Sero are waiting for him. "What's that?" Kirishima asks. "The old hag's ship," Bakugou says. "She's got a new one after she went to the fountain. It's gaudy as hell." Kirishima catches up behind him, Bakugou already reaching land. It's always a struggle, the way his feet suddenly work so steadily on the ground. Kirishima pays extra attention to where he's walking. "What's the fountain?" "Of youth, idiot," Bakugou sighs. "Some pirate you are." His words make Kirishima halt for a moment. Firstly, fountain of youth, that existed. Was its magic as real as the tales told? Secondly, pirate. "What, don't like it, love?" Bakugou says, looking over his shoulder. "It's true now, whether you're going to accept it or not." Kirishima is still as Bakugou fixes the bandana on his head, making sure his hair is tucked beneath it properly. His rough fingers press against Kirishima's skin as he situates everything, and Kirishima tries not to stare into his eyes. Bakugou grins and drops his hand. "Pirate." Kirishima watches him leave. He takes in the pink-white sand and the swaying palms, beautiful against the griminess of the sea-stained port. The water, blue out in the ocean, is matted with black flecked sea foam near the wharves. The sand near the docks is almost completely black. It almost looks like a layer of ash covers both his surroundings and the people. He's heard rumors about Ka, how it holds the gates to hell, and how there's a fire beneath the island that never dies. By nightfall, he's sure the ash will have added a filmy layer to his skin. He thinks about Bakugou's words. Pirate. Was that what he was? Kirishima hasn't done any pillaging, but he's on a pirate ship, wearing pirate clothes and following his pirate captain around on a seemingly impossible but steadily growing likelihood of being true treasure hunt. He snorts. Wouldn't his father like to see him now? Kirishima supposes if his father's quick decision to leave him behind said boatloads about his character, then Kirishima's quick adaptation to the pirate life said a lot about his too. He stands up a little taller. Pirate. That was fine with him. Kirishima thinks about sending a letter to his sister, but the address probably isn't a good one to write from this area of the earth. He could wait for another port where the mailing system was less likely to be interfered. He stays close to the ship for the most part, worried that he'll get lost in the labyrinth of wharfs and island. He works on the outside of the ship with Taichi, using what Sero taught him to help tend to the ware, passing the time. He realizes soon the position of the sun and rolls his shoulders, bidding goodbye as he goes in search for the Aeternum. He walks to where the docks split outward and asks man for directions. He has an eye patch, but even his good eye looks worse for wear, and most of his teeth are missing. He smiles up at Kirishima, though, and continues to jig the line he has in the water. Kirishima wouldn't think he'd catch much because of all the soot, but there are a few small fish beside him. "Excuse me, sir, where's the Addernum docked?" Kirishima asks. The man's wiry eyebrows lift high on his forehead. Heard about that ship docking here for some time now. Hasn't left yet." His accent is heavy and his voice wavers when he talks. "Yeah?" Kirishima asks. "How long?" About a month, maybe," he says. "What business do you have with the Addernum?" That's..." The man waves his hand. "No worries, son. That's up to you. She's in this direction." "Thank you," Kirishima says, tipping his head to him as he continues along the winding wharfs. He chooses the wooden paths that are in the general direction, stepping carefully on the uneven and slippery wood. The tide is coming in too, causing some planks to splash with water. The more he asks for directions, the more unnerving the responses are. "Addernum, you got a death sentence, son. Of course, if I had to choose the way to die, I wouldn't mind it to be in the hand of a pretty lady, but you're a brave soul." "Addernum, the ship is near here. Thanks, mate. We'll be heading away then." Finally, Kirishima reaches the ship. He knows because it's massive. Its highest sail still standing leagues above the ships around it. Its bowsprit is long, and a sculpture of a mermaid rests beneath it, her heart exposed and her face torn in agony. Its sides are made of dark wood, and they glisten beneath the sooty waterline. He's still standing awestruck when he hears footsteps come up behind him. He turns, seeing Bakugou, Mina, and Sarah approaching. Bakugou looks annoyed. They don't greet each other. Mina is strangely quiet, but he can tell by the gleam in her eyes that she's excited. He doesn't know where they went, but there are smudges of ash across their faces, and they have more bags with them, so Kirishima either suspects they did some handiwork, aka theft, or Orjiro asked them to get supplies to split the workload. Bakugou breathes in loudly next to him, and Kirishima flinches when he yells out, "Hey, old bitch, let down the gangplank. I need to board your shitty ship." Kirishima's eyes widen and he looks over at Mina, who shrugs. "That's what they're like." Kirishima nods slowly, thinking of how his mother would probably die from unpleasantness if he ever spoke to her so rudely. Bakugou keeps yelling profanities, and soon a gangplank drops. Bakugou saunters up, and Kirishima follows after Mina and Sarah walk on board. Kirishima feels a little out of place among the rest, so he watches on, taking in the grandiosity of King Mitsuki's ship. His father would probably have had a conniption if he knew he was here now. He shifts the bandana on his head a little bit, nervous. He follows their single file, eyes catching on the glints of gold embalmed into the ship's decor. He knew the pirate kings were high level, but it's still a lot to take in. Bakugou bursts inside of the room he expects to be Mitsuki's quarters, but when the wood doors creak apart it looks more like a throne room. Satin drapes around the high ceilings, and gem-encrusted skulls are embedded into the support pillars. Kirishima is so distracted by the sparkling treasures on display around him, he misses Mitsuki's entrance. "Well, look what the sea spit back to me." Kirishima turns at the clear, booming voice. He's frozen in place, stunned by her very presence. She stands tall, with the same downward, mocking gaze as her son. She strides over with the gait, but with more of a swing to her step that swishes the long skirts of her outfit. Kirishima, even in all his gentle manliness, would have trouble not looking down at her breasts, squished up to her chest by the tight black corset, if not for her face. She's incredibly beautiful, with the same white blonde hair, sharp eyes, and angled face as her son. She looks young, save for the slightest signs of age behind her eyes. Kirishima believes a little more in the fountain of youth. Even if she had her son at a young age, her skin retains a brightness that seems ethereal. "Need you to look at something for me," Bakugou says. "What? Can't spare time to have a chat with your own mother?" "Please, I'd rather drive my own sword into my heart." "You're so ungrateful, you little shit," Mitsuki scoffs. "Don't complain about how I am if you raised me, you old bitch," Bakugou says, voice rising. Kirishima stares, wide-eyed, as the two pirates ensue a yelling match before they've even reached a talking distance. He glances at Mina again. "Yeah, this is normal," she whispers, shrugging. But her low voice doesn't get past Mitsuki's sharp ears. Mitsuki whips her head towards her, and when she smiles, Kirishima is caught off guard, not expecting it from a Bakugo. Mitsuki walks towards Mina, arms outstretched, and pulls her into a hug. When she pulls away, Kirishima doesn't miss the blush on Mina's cheeks, and he can't blame her. "Mina, love," Mitsuki says. Kirishima's mouth twitches in a smile. That's where Bakugo gets it from. "I'm so happy to see you. Have you thought much about my offer?" "I appreciate it, Mrs. Bakugo, but I already got a captain." Mina smiles. Bakugo is seething next to her, but his mother pays him no mind. "Stop trying to steal my crew," Bakugo yells, stomping his foot towards her. Mitsuki continues to ignore him, and her gaze locks with Kirishima, making him jump. "This one is new," she says. "What does he do?" Bakugo is about to speak, and Kirishima almost has a heart attack, not sure if he can handle being put on display in front of such an obviously unforgiving woman. "He's a cabin boy until he learns the ship," Mina says, and Kirishima nearly breathes a sigh of relief. "And he reads for our map," Bakugo says. "Now can we get going? I need you to look." "Fine," Mitsuki says, and she turns on her heel. She walks to the side, pulling on heavy double doors. From what Kirishima can see, it's her navigational room. She greets someone inside, and Bakugo just behind her lets out an angry yell and draws his sword. Kirishima tenses quickly, but neither Mina or Sero are reacting. He shuffles to view the room a little easier. There's another pirate there. At least, Kirishima thinks he's a pirate. He could be nobility, perhaps, but there's an intense demeanor that leads him towards the unsavory. His hair is surprising to Kirishima, or what he can see of it beneath his magnificent hat. It's red and white, the color split evenly down the center. A scar settled deep over one eye. Even with the mark, he looks handsome. "Cattchi," Mitsuki snaps. "Do you always have to be so rude? This young man just settled his father's debt to me, a hefty interest rate included." "Why the fuck is he still here if it's been settled?" Bakugo snarls. "He didn't want to interrupt our meeting. How polite of him," Mitsuki says, sighing. "Too polite for a pirate," Bakugo says. "Is that still all you're doing, Todoroki?" Kirishima's eyes shoot back to his scarred face. He was too young to be Endeavor, meaning he was undoubtedly his son. "Playing cabin boy for your father. You have an entire fleet if you want one. Why not use it for something?" Bakugo taunts. Kirishima wants to calm him somehow, but no one else is batting an eye. Todoroki, the seemingly least affected of them all. He blinks at Bakugo, then he nods at Mitsuki. "It was a pleasure working with you." He walks past them, a tall, powerful stride that makes Kirishima step back when he passes, respecting his space. Bakugo, however, starts to stomp after him, but Mitsuki puts a hand on his shoulder. "Don't ignore me, you bastard," he grits. "You'll regret it one day when I'm at the table." Kirishima has many questions, and as much as he wants to blurt them out right now, he also would like to live a little longer. "What are you doing leaving him alone in here?" Bakugo turns to his mother. "He could gather any amount of information." "Whatever I know, he knows already." She waves her hand. "Now what is it you want?" Bakugo gives a final glare at the door and pulls the journal pages and cloths from beneath his coat, Mina following suit. Mitsuki watches, eyes growing larger as the map expands. "Cattchi, you've done all this since we last met?" She sounds amazed and proud. Kirishima watches on, once again basking in the greatness of Bakugou Cattchi. "Does it look familiar to you?" Bakugo asks. "Sero, make sure that asswipe isn't listening." Sero jolts and nods, heading out the doors. Mitsuki examines the makeshift map. She traces the coastline, eyebrows furrowed in concentration. It's uncanny how much Bakugou looks like her. Kirishima looked almost nothing like his mother, both he and his sister taking after their father with red hair and deep brown red eyes. "I do," she says. "The Lost Continent." "I knew it." Bakugo whispers, a grin creeping over his face. His eyes flash when he looks to Mina, who looks back just as brightly. "This helps." "That's all you needed?" Mitsuki asks. "Yes," Bakugo says. "Kiri's gonna read you the verses so you know I haven't been fooled." "We almost bought false information one time," Mina says. "It's a good thing he can read." Bakugo growls and tells Mina to shut up, but she just laughs, shifting closer to Mitsuki. "Okay, read," Mitsuki says, nodding her head to Kirishima. He approaches the table and starts off at the top of the map, easily picking out the verses spread around. He can feel sweat roll down his temples as he rubs the bandana on his head, trying to wipe it away. Bakugou made him nervous, staring at him as he read, and now his doubly intense mother had her eyes trained on his mouth as well. He clears his throat and tries to read them as clearly as he can. Sail, swim, and walk not. There is no safety in the sky. Row beneath the roots, and make sure to tell no lies. When the sky's a friend, and your path is narrow and black, favor the river's shore. I promise you'll make it back. He doesn't look up to catch their expressions for fear of stumbling over his words, but when he finishes, the air is both heavy and excited, and the eyes in the room shine as they look at him, pleased not by his performance, but by the words he's spoken. Very well, I'm convinced, Mitsuki says. You can stay a while. When was the last time you had fruit, cattchi? You'll get scurvy if you're not careful. I haven't had fruit in ages, Mrs. Bakugou, Mina says, and Mitsuki frowns pointedly at her son. Bakugou rolls his eyes and Kirishima almost laughs. She sounds like a mom, as much as she doesn't sound like one either. We have to go. Okay, well I'll get you some fruit for you to take to your ship, she says. Fine, Bakugou says. There's not much left of the map, cattchi. You could almost try for it now. Bakugou shakes his head. That's where Endeavor messed up. That's why he ruined it, because he couldn't get through. All right. I'd ask you to stay, but I suppose you're a target if anyone knows you're this close. You should get going. Bakugou nods. Right. And he was here just to read? Mitsuki asks, nodding to Kirishima. Kirishima jumps, not expecting to be addressed again. He knows an awful lot. Are you sure he should be kept alive? He's leverage, Bakugou says. I'm going to use him a while longer. Mitsuki looks at Kirishima again, scrutinizing. He feels kind of offended about how easily they believe he can be disposed of. Though if he's being honest with himself, it's probably the truth. But he still doesn't like it. He was human too, after all. He certainly wanted to live. Mitsuki walks closer to him, sizing him up. She lifts heavily ringed fingers to his bandana, tucking his hair underneath. He has pretty hair, she says, but doesn't say anything further. Bakugou and Mina disperse their maps, tucking them under their coats and making their way to leave. As Kirishima passes through the doors, he turns to her. Thank you. She looks up at him and laughs. You better get rid of that attitude, love. You're a target, remember? Kirishima smiles and nods. Right. He catches up to Mina, Bakugou already far ahead. Sarah was ahead of them with a large crate of fruit. Mitsuki probably had it ready for them to begin with. They walk along the narrow wharfs, working their way back to the crepitus. The captain and Todoroki don't get along, Kirishima says, quiet enough to be out of Bakugou's earshot. More like Bakugou doesn't get along with Todoroki, Mina laughs. They're rivals. How so? Kirishima asks. They're strolling leisurely, and he's glad for the calm pace. Being in the presence of one Bakugou was intimidating enough, let alone two. Well, Mina says, tilting her head. You should know enough about the Pirates Code to figure it out. 2 parents of 2 pirates and 1 open seat at the table. Usually it'd be hard to appoint who will be king, but Endeavor's conquered territory, so to speak, is greater than Mitsuki's. But Todoroki doesn't care to be at the table. So Bakugou hates that he's been given a win, Kirishima says, laughing. He steps carefully over a missing plank. Bakugou and Sarah have already turned the bins in front of them, out of their sight, beyond the huts and water trees. Mina snorts, nodding. You know him well. I did read the intel for him. Mina laughs and hooks her arm through his. He grins down at her, happy. He's been thankful for her watchful eye and appreciates her easy acceptance of his uneasy background. You must miss them, though, Mina says after a while. I'd rather not talk about it, Kirishima says, not unkindly. Mina pats his arm. No problem, hon. Kirishima is about to thank her when a cry carries through the air. Then a growing roar builds from ahead. They slow their walking even more, listening carefully. A shot rings out. They both still, eyes darting around. Another fires, and there's more yelling, fierce and angered. Kirishima shares a quick glance with the first mate, and then they bolt forward, feet stepping as quickly as they can over the slippery and patchwork planks of the docks. It's by the crepitus, Mina says, and she curses as she runs faster. Kirishima keeps up with her, nerves on edge as they reach the commotion. He sees the crew, on the boat and off, swords out. Shit, Mina, I don't... Kirishima starts, but she's already drawn her rapier and run into the chaos. Kirishima hesitates before following. He has no weapon. He sees Shoji, gigantic amongst them all, pulling at the ship's ropes. They're leaving. Kirishima ducks his head and rushes into the mess of people. He goes as fast as he can, slipping between opponents and those slipping on the wood. He sees Bakugou, both swords out, pushing back against Taichi's blades. Kirishima's eyes go wide as he almost gets hit in the head by someone's elbow as he stares, stunned by the view of Bakugou throwing Taichi's sword and driving his own through his crew member's chest. He edges along the side as best he can, noticing someone has let open the rows of cannons on the crepitus. Bakugou didn't truly intend to fire on land, did he? He starts pulling the ropes with Shoji. You, Shoji says, eyes wide when he sees him. Get inside. But we have to. Now, Shoji says, and he practically throws Kirishima towards the gangplank. He stumbles a bit, and he sees a lone sword on the deck. He grabs for it. It's unbalanced and crude, but it parries the blow that comes from a sailor beside him. Kirishima can't fall into step when the dock is slippery and uneven, and there are so many bodies together on the ground it's impossible to follow a fighting tempo. Here, the sailor yells. This is the Kirishima. Kirishima's blood runs cold. He parried another blow and steps over a body, his opponent tripping over it. Kirishima takes the chance to hop to the gangplank, maybe not a good idea because he's in higher view. He ducks his head as he boards it, seeing Shoji climb the ropes on the side and Bakugou the last on the docks. He sees Shoji cup a hand around his mouth and bellow above the gunfire and clashing. He's there, I've killed him. Kirishima sees the attention of the chaos shift towards his voice and Bakugou slip onto the gangplank. He kicks it away when he boards. Kirishima feels a hand on his head, pushing him down. Hide, idiot! Mina hisses at him. What happened? Kirishima asks, but she's already running to take the wheel from Ojiro. He stays low, crouching with the rest of the crew as Mina weaves out of the port. She takes a couple docks out as she flees. People's surprised cries and the sounds of groaning wood frantic in the air. Kirishima eyes the crew. Unless there were more below, there were men left behind. Such was a pirate's life. No time to mourn over the overturn of crew. Once on the open water, it's clear no one can pursue them. The crepitus was ready for departure, and no other ship was either ready or aware enough of the situation to follow. Kirishima stands when the others do. The sword in his hand feels oddly heavy. He picked it up. He used it without hesitation. His life was at stake, yes, but no thought crossed his mind about his actions. He doesn't even know if he feels unbalanced in his morals or not. He looks for Bakugou, but meets the wary eyes of the crew instead, and in a sudden rush the guilt of lives fall upon his shoulders. Not his hand, but his existence ended lives today. He wants to tell himself it's not his fault, but the blame isn't so black and white as that, so it settles uneasily into the pit of his stomach. He turns to hang his head over the side of the ship, either hoping to be refreshed by the sea spray, vomit, or fall in and drown. He sees his captain move out of the corner of his eye, and he uprights himself. There's something wrong.